Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It is 2 o'clock. You listen to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, 103.3 FM and online at kpca.fm. My name is Phil, and this show is called Let's Make a List. This is the show where we take pop culture stuff, like TVs, movies, books, video games, things like that, make lists and talk about our choices. And today, well, to be honest, we usually spend half the episode talking about something that's very loosely based or related to pop culture, but that's part of the show. Community radio. Rules don't apply. Even the rules I make. Not at our home, though. With us today, we have a guest. You know her from around town, Petaluma. You might see her at grocery store, library, other stores, driving around. You might see her in Santa Rosa, even. But today, you see her here at the KPCA studio. This is Ariel.
On the radio.
Hey, Ariel. How's it going?
Hey, Phil. It's really good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you doing?
Still doing really good. Thanks.
Cool. That's good to hear. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did I actually already ask you how you're doing?
You did?
Crazy. Yep. Sorry. So yeah, today we got some important stuff to talk about, including favorite action movie sequences / scenes. It could be an action scene or sequence, not even in an action movie. It could be a nice, calm Jane Austen sit around and talk about manners movie, and then
So
maybe
to
there's
you,
some crazy stuff going on.
If it is a movie like that and it's a Jane Austen movie, what is action to you? Is it when they have tea? Is it when somebody's eyebrow shoots up to their hairline and they are shocked?
Does somebody ever throw a tea at someone's face, then pull out a sword and cut their toes off?
That would be amazing, honestly.
Yeah.
If somebody just yelled, "I'm sick of this."
Now try walking in heels. No big toe. That could be. I haven't finished any Jane Austen books. I started one. What?
What you doing?
I turned the light off.
Okay.
This light. Is that okay?
It looked for a second like you're just...
Well, sometimes I fiddle faddle. Fiddle faddle diddle battle.
Just checking.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for checking. So
you started reading a Jane Austen book?
Well, in high school, Pride and Prejudice. I got probably 20 pages in, maybe 30.
That's much farther than other people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've talked about this many an episode. Books stand out. I don't know if there are any in high school I finished. I probably did.
I think I cheated my way through all of them.
Right. Well, school assigned books, I'm saying.
Yeah, school assigned books. Some of those books were, and we have talked about this before, where I feel like they were not the best books, some of them. I'm not talking like classics. Those are just culturally boring because the style of writing is outdated. Well, at least like for us. So it's hard to maintain interest and like get through it. So it feels like a slog, especially when you have somebody asking you questions that aren't really interesting about the material and they're not trying to make it exciting. But some of the other books that were assigned in school were just kind of like, they were like the Da Vinci Code of books where they were based on like a common denominator, and you could go, we are in the first act. I can predict exactly what's going to happen in the second act, and let me read the last page. Now I can write a paper.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's how I got through a lot of my high school experience with A's because those books were not good.
I think I went till I was like 15 or so thinking that Cliff Notes were basically illegal. And I found out they have them at the library. I'm like, then they're fine to use.
Yeah,
so I started using those some.
Never actually used a Cliff Note thing.
I've done it like 2 or 3 times.
Because I felt that same way. I didn't feel like, oh my God, they're illegal. I was just like, that's cheating. If I'm going to cheat, I'm at least like going to like use on, like, I'm going to cheat my way.
For me, it was usually the end of the year, and I'm like, I just need to finish this year. Yeah. Whatever. There's no way I'm going to be able to focus on this book.
Felt like that in middle school and high school on the third day of school, because generally by the third day of school, every teacher had decided how they already felt about you. And they would treat you that way for the rest of the year, regardless.
So you got to do something to make yourself... It's like going to prison, basically.
Yes, actually.
I think that's how it is. So you should have your first day of school. This is advice to all kids out there. Do something really horrible and dramatic and crazy just so everyone is intimidated by you.
Jump on a table. Pull a Denzel Washington where you beat your chest while you're making proclamation. And then just like make crazy eyes at everybody.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that part's Denzel. Denzel is strictly the emotional proclamation where you beat your chest. And then you switch over to like Godzilla eyes. And you just go, I'll come for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be fun.
This is the power of community radio. We can do these PSAs, as they say.
And school truly is not the worst thing ever. But when you're a kid and your entire life is feeling like you're trapped, and depending on the educational system within which you may be trapped, it can feel like it's the end of the world.
Oh, totally.
But
very much.
Like other situations, it does get better.
Yeah.
Because at some point, you will not be required to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And you can just walk away and do as you would like with your life. And make choices where people don't laugh in your face. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
What if you want to be a stand-up comedian? If you don't like being laughed at? That would suck. Imagine you're like one of the best stand-ups ever. Like imagine George Carlin. Maybe, what if he didn't like being laughed at?
Tough cookies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, before we get to action movies, something that is totally unrelated to pop culture.
Let's talk about real stuff.
It's real, but in a vague broad way. I almost
vague Broadway.
Yeah, I almost mixed those two words up. A vague broad way.
I like it.
So, with this current system we have in place, how can we as a people get more people to vote?
Ooh.
What do you think are ways that, because we talked about this recently and everyone's talked about this, where if it was on a holiday, like they made it a holiday, or if they made voting day on the weekend or something, or if they made it, some places I think they make it mandatory. And so all these things, then those would all be possible ways. But with how the laws are set up and how the things are set up now, how can we actually, you think, encourage more people to vote?
Well, I have a lot of answers to that. One of them is that making it mandatory is not an answer.
I agree.
Because as soon as you make someone's right to do something mandatory, you have the right to speak up for yourself and your rights.
Right.
Now you have to. Then that opens the door for, now you have to say what we tell you to say.
Exactly. But I don't think that's ever not worked, though, if you look back on it.
I think that a good system that could work would be one that does not penalize people when they do take time away from work to vote. And so I do agree with voting day being a holiday,
right,
or having it be mandatory for workplaces to allow their employees.
I think that might be a thing, but I think a lot of places
people
they
still
go
get
like
penalized
you get
for it.
Right,
People
but
still get penalized because it's kind of
I think a lot of places they let you out like 15 minutes before the polls close.
Yeah,
it's that kind of
thing.
And
so it's like, if it's actually a legitimate, these people need X amount of time to be able to get to the polls to vote, and then to like get back to work or to go home. Like if it wasn't something where workplaces look at it like it's a problem, and I don't know how that would be implemented, but it's just like, it is people's right. And then when they try to use that right, you get into trouble for it. Like I did work a job where I tried to take time off to go vote, and I met a stone wall of no. And that was ridiculous, and I took the time anyway. And they were not happy, and I was like, tough. Yeah, they have me working here, or you don't.
Yeah.
So you pick.
But with the current, with those, without any days changed or holidays or laws or anything like that, what are ways now, like this year, that you think the best way to get people to vote? Do you think it has to do with, do you think, I don't know.
I don't really have a concrete answer, because we as a society, there are so many people now that we see it in small scale things where, like, let's use an example. Like if you have an event and you let everyone around you know, come to this event because it's supporting something that is amazing for our community. All of those people that you have invited will go, well, maybe I'll go. And then as it gets closer, they go, well, it doesn't matter if I don't go because someone else will show up. And then it turns out that nobody goes because everyone thinks somebody else is going to take that spot and show up. And so we're all just, not all of us, there are quite a few people who are not comfortable doing this. There are still quite a few people who don't know how to speak or fight against something or, do those things. But we're all just like kind of waiting for it to take care of itself. And so there have been wars fought over tax that was like a negligible amount that meant something even more back then, but like wars fought over taxes. And now people are like, oh, you're shooting people in the streets?
Yep.
That's awful. And then they don't do the research. They don't do the homework. They don't show up. And apathy is a huge problem. There's also a lot of reason to understand the apathy because, with the growth of our population has come the growth of weaponry. And like a long time ago, if you wanted to stand up against your government, what did you have to work with? You had to work with musket balls. Now it's like you've got all these different things where you have like futuristic armies facing against you. So when you're scared of something like that, like how do you really change anything? And then our voting system, quilts definitely have messages in them, but it's like our voting system's rigged. People drive cars into swamps. They lose votes all the time. And I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying absolutely go vote. Do it anyway and then do more. But the system itself is so broken and people willingly break it even more every time a vote comes around that I don't know.
Do you think, for me growing up in school, I don't think we ever talked about local politics at all. I think they try to keep politics out of school because that's something that parents would get upset about, and they go, oh, you're biased or whatever. And I think in college it was different. But growing up, do you think if they introduced and talked about actual current events locally more, then it'll become more of a natural thing for them to keep doing that as they get older?
Well, I think so, because it would be part of your life. You would already be you'd be frankly conditioned to look for it and to think about it. We did talk about current events in my schools. We did talk about politics.
Okay.
There were classes about politics, and you were encouraged to talk about it outside. Plus,
before college.
Oh yeah, we were in high school during the Bush administration. So September 11th.
We rarely ever did, but it was always
September 11th completely brought that all to the surface, and teachers would like actually set aside time in class to talk about things that were political, and then those took on their own life.
Yeah, we do that, and then we'd have like a couple students just say some racist things. And the teacher, what did other people think? And then they'd say whatever their parents say, and then that was it. And they didn't give it. They didn't. It was on this. I think a lot of times teachers, in a way, their hands are kind of tied because they're probably told, which is understandable, where they go like, you can't talk about political stuff because we can't. I think it's mostly about upsetting parents.
It's 100%
and people about
that
them being pushed a certain way, but it's like you have to teach. Yeah, and so I wish that
it takes an amazing teacher to be able to walk that fine line.
Yeah.
Because teachers have had their own rights, their rights to teach, stripped away from them since we were kids, since we were little. They have been able to do less and less and less and less. And in some ways that's good. Corporal punishment, not good. Shouldn't be in the classroom. But encouraging your students to develop their language and to develop critical thinking in a way that affects their personal lives and their own development more than what is required to meet a standardized test that someone can ace by performing poorly. Like, doing that requires a teacher who can like totally hold the balance of being like, I'm going to present a subject to you. Here are things that we cannot say because it's inappropriate. You know it's inappropriate. Don't go there. I.e. just being racist. Just don't do it. Think about what you're going to say. If you're going to make an argument, then you'd better be ready to defend it and debate it and argue it. And if it turns out that it is this thing, we will focus on that and we will like discuss it and dissect it. And if you don't understand why that's racist or why it's problematic, maybe we'll be able to figure that out now. But like without necessarily pointing certain things in a certain direction. I did have one teacher who was able to say, here's a subject. I want you guys to talk about it, and was able to kind of guide the conversation without guiding opinions, but was able to teach through that how to debate, how to come to a conversation with information that had been thought about and had actually been researched a little bit to have that backed up so that you weren't arguing, you were debating. And it might get like a little bit heated, but it was like, we're here to discuss this into the ground. And like, that's a really hard thing to do. I don't think I would ever be able to do that.
And these days, and it's been like this for a little while now, but actual truth and facts have become political, and science become political things. So even if you just say things that there is science behind, or you know, drop the pen, credible sources and stuff behind, and facts, it's become a thing where it's like, well, nope, that's a blah 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 talking point kind of thing.
And what people are forgetting is that you can actually keep talking past that point. That person may not listen, but you can actually talk to people. I can't, because I get very angry. But there are people who have this skill to continue talking in the face of ignorance, in the face of a set, decided mindset. And they can talk through it without being angry, without pushing all those person's buttons, and getting them through to the side where they're actually questioning themselves. And not like converting them to anything, not convincing them like, well, actually, that is a fact. But making them go, maybe my sources aren't as credible. Maybe I'll extend myself to like look at a further thing. And those people are miracle workers. Because, yeah, we are in an age where facts are a question. Like, gravity exists. Oh, does it? Yeah, it does.
I think we've talked about this before, but I think everybody, I'm not going to talk about it because we've already talked about it. Never mind.
But
I think people should not feel like it's inappropriate to talk about politics and stuff to people, because because then people can take anything and then form it in a way, present it in a way where it's political, and then they go, it's inappropriate, and you have to accept and tolerate my thoughts and views on this because it's a political thing. And you could have something that's outside of politics and you go, that's ridiculous, this is wrong, that's why. And then you say, oh no, it's politics. You go, you have to respect that side. And people just I agree that respect people's opinions, but it should also, everything should be open to debate. And it's so frustrating how they can take anything and say, oh, this is religious, or this has to do with politics or whatever, so we can't like, we have to be middle of the road, when middle of the road a lot of times means it's ignoring facts and stuff.
Yeah, it's not
actually
possible
neutral
to do. I am, by the way, this is a PSA. I'm not advertising myself to be a perfect person or even a good one.
You're good.
When it comes to people's opinions, I respect that people have the right to have their opinion. I don't respect their opinion.
Right.
If it's
that's what I should have said. Yeah.
Completely lacks empathy, if it completely lacks independent thought. There are some people who are bananas crazy and racist and all of these, like, just all of these horrible other things, and they have their opinions. I don't respect their opinion for a penny or a pound.
Right.
I respect that they have the right as a human being who is capable of independent thought to have one, but I definitely don't respect their opinion.
Right.
But I will try to respect them as a human with the basic level of respect that I afford to everyone. There are people who come to me and say, like, you should respect me. And it's like, no, I'm going to respect you the way I do everyone else, which is, you're a person. you don't deserve me trying to attack you.
Right.
I'm not going to harass you. I'm not going to be awful to you. I'm going to respect that you have your space, your rights, all of those things. But I don't have to like you.
Right.
And I certainly don't have to respect you with a capital R and like kowtow to you. That's earned. That's not something that I just give to you because you don't deserve that from everyone you meet.
You keep looking at me when you say this. Are you talking about me?
Right into your eyes, Philip.
Okay.
So when it comes to
reverb,
second time I've done it. So I don't remember exactly where I was going with that. But to people saying it's not appropriate to talk about politics or religion, people usually say that it's not appropriate to talk about that around the dinner table, which kind of means it's not appropriate to talk about with your family. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are certain situations where it's not really appropriate to talk about it. Like, you're not going to wheel that out at somebody's funeral.
Right.
You know, like in the middle of a wedding ceremony, you're not going to be like, did you see what this person said in the news today? Like, you're not going to talk about those things at certain times. But I think it is important to discuss in life, because otherwise, when you say it's not appropriate to talk about these things, like let's talk about a real hot button issue. Police brutality.
What side are you on? We never talked about this.
Come on. People in my family, I do have cops in my family. I have people who've worked for the FBI in my family. There's a police station in Larkspur named after my great uncle, who was a police chief. I thought that I would become a cop when I was in high school. It was a goal that I was actually actively working towards. There are people in my family who have those same relatives, and they think it's inappropriate to talk about those things. To me, that's privilege. You, because of the color of your skin, because of the connections that you have, you will never, ever, ever have to worry about what's going to happen when I see those lights flash behind me. Mm-hmm. Am I going to walk out of a traffic ticket alive? That's something you'll never have to encounter, but that is something that a big part of the population of our country has to worry about every day. That and a multitude of other things where they don't have the same urge, these people, to call 911 because they don't know that that person's going to help them. Mm-hmm. And that's a reality. And people in my family don't want to talk about it because they want to do that wall of blue, which I understand loyalty. I understand wanting to support each other. But when you have a bad apple, you need to deal with that bad apple. And you don't deal with it by just transferring it. That's not how it works. You deal with it.
And these bad apples are in part created because of
they're created because of the system of silence. And there are things that need to be fixed. It's not black and white, it's gray. And in that gray, there are things that you can do to fix it. And people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to fix it. And so they have these opinions of like, well, I know somebody who's a cop. And I know that that person's a good cop. So nobody else could be a bad cop.
Right.
That's just not true. You don't know other people. Maybe your relative who's a cop isn't racist, doesn't look for a fight.
Yep.
Good for them. But there are others who do. And it's inappropriate to pretend that that's not a reality because you don't want to be uncomfortable. Oh, I'm so sorry that you don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm so sorry that your privilege is at risk. Other people actually have their lives at risk. And politics, religion, all of those things, they all touch people's lives that much. That's real life. Mm-hmm. So people would much rather be comfortable talking about a fantasy world. They would much rather be happy talking about Monday Night Football than... Is it Monday night or is it Sunday? I don't know.
They have Sunday and Monday and Thursday.
Nighttime football. Mm-hmm. Then they would be talking about something real because they don't actually want to have their bubble threatened. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have to defend their stances because some people I'm related to, and I will always point to that without naming names, they know that certain opinions that they have are things that are looked at as bad. Racist, bigoted, misogynist. But they don't want to have to defend themselves. And they don't want to have to look at them as being a bad guy. They don't want to have to look at themselves as being part of anything that is bad because it threatens their snow globe of life. Nobody wants to do the work, essentially. It's the same thing with the voting. Nobody wants to do the work. because it means that I have to be uncomfortable. And I'd so much rather binge Netflix. Like, we all would. But while we're binging Netflix, real life continues. And yeah.
So you think like having free candy could work at the voting booths?
Yeah, condition kids early. Accept candy from strangers because you're going to go voting.
Well, they'll have a sign. People have name tags on. They won't be strangers. No, thank you for giving some thought and answer.
Sorry, I always rant.
Don't be sorry. No, that's I asked because it's not a rant. It's a clearly stated thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go back to those people that I'm referring to and dancing around, who I'm related to, I'm not them. So I'm stupid and I've never lived a life.
We can say you're Kennedy. We can say that.
I'm a Kennedy. No.
That's just
we're
thinking a famous family. That's the one that popped up.
We've just entered into a time when there are certain situations where I did say a few minutes ago that things aren't black and white, that there's a lot of gray. I want to go back to that. There are things that are black and white. There are things that are right and there are things that are wrong. And there's a lot of gray around a lot of stuff, but there are things where it's like, a political figure said this thing on social media that is a call to action. That is a political figure who is the president of the United States, who is at the top of the pyramid of power and authority in the country, making a call to action about something petty and stupid. And there are people who will see it as a real call to action, and they will see it as permission. And people don't want to talk about that, even though there are 11-year-old children looking at that going, but you taught me that that's wrong. You taught me that it's wrong for that to happen, but you're saying it's okay if this person does it, but you don't want to talk about it. It's all hypocrisy and nonsense and a lot of cuss words I can't use on the radio.
But yeah, speaking of, I'm going to go back. Speaking of the times we're living in, it is 2:28. You listen to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. It's a nice sunny day out, a little too warm, but it's okay. We're parked in the shade.
What's happening elsewhere in Petaluma?
Oh, elsewhere in Petaluma? There's a slight breeze. That could be good. And there's also, we are smack dab in the middle of the Petaluma Comedy Festival, which is, started yesterday. It goes through Sunday. It's a comedy festival to raise money for Petaluma Paints, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the goal of teaching traditional academic subjects through a variety of artistic mediums, including drawing, painting, sculpting, design, textiles, clay, collage, and more. The shows are going to be all in downtown Petaluma at the Mystic, Big Easy, and Copperfields. Last night was Brian Pizzane. Tonight, you got the Sklar Brothers, Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall, and Todd Glass of a live jazz band at the Big Easy. And tomorrow there's a lineup you can find online, including Benedettiville at the Mystic. Oh, so it goes through tomorrow, not Sunday. Excuse me. Today's 17th, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, there are shows. So you can go to petalama.com, PETALLAMA.com, and find more information. Good shows, and money goes to a good cause. So yeah, kind of going back to what we were talking about a minute ago. Did you have anything else you want to add?
I could talk about that until the sun goes down and comes up again.
Okay.
But we don't have that kind of time.
Okay, well, this is related to that. So let's say in Hollywood they made it so only 10-year-olds were the only ones that could write screenplays that were made in the movies. What do you think it would be like if that happened? Do you think, like here's an example. Do you think, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it's fun to imagine. I would like them to say 1 year, all movies have to be written by 10-year-olds, but they're still going to have they're going to have different genre movies. So they have 10-year-olds go, you're assigned to write an adult thriller. And then you have kids over here that have to make kids movies. This doesn't go anywhere. I don't know anything to say.
Well,
I just think it's fun.
I think that what those things would look like is that they wouldn't have story arcs. I think you'd have like one kid or two, like a few who would have an understanding of what that is because they're more advanced in their thinking or their comprehension of storytelling.
They get kicked out of the writing room.
But they would be really imaginative and they would be bonkers, which would be awesome. Because even if they didn't have a coherent story, like, well, actually, I mean, like, there are 10-year-olds who can write stories, but like they wouldn't, not all of them would, but they would have a wide range of craziness.
10-year-old Ariel, 10-year-old Ariel. What would if you write a screenplay, what do you think it would have been about?
Oh, it would have been real fuzzy in the middle, story-wise, but there would have been so much action and fantasy and magic that, I mean, you would just like have that just in excess. It would just be crazy. But like the story might get a little fuzzy. Like, what happened? What are we getting towards? Character development? Was there any?
Oh, a 10-year-old, I wouldn't even think about any of that. I'd just be like, what do I want to see in a movie? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I do now when I want to see movies. Mine would have probably involved a police officer that was an older police officer that was kind of down on his luck. And then at some point, he'd become a professional athlete. And he would have to use a gun, but only for good reasons. He wouldn't shoot any good guys, only bad guys.
But he always referred to himself by his full name.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. It'd be a good movie.
Oh, yeah. And mine would have a crazy romance, and Enya would have done like 90% of the soundtrack.
You're listening to Enya when you were 10?
I'm sure that like one or two of the songs had made its way to my consciousness. Because I was like, magic? That's what magic sounds like.
My soundtrack would have been Weird Al and Boyz II Men.
Nice.
Would have been a good movie. All right. Should we get to...
Hey, you can still make it, you know.
I'm not 10 anymore. I can have a kid and force him to make a movie at 10.
Well...
Okay, pressure him to make a movie at 10.
No.
Punish him by making... I should do that. I have a kid, and every time you punish him, okay, go write 2 pages.
Go sit down.
Formatting's wrong. Sorry, you have to go sit back down.
Mm-hmm.
How about we go to action sequences?
Okay.
All right. So this is where we're going to talk about movies we like. We're going to talk about our favorite action scenes, sequences, things like that.
Awesome.
I've got a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think you should do 2 at a time, and I'll do one in between.
All right, cool. So I'll start with obvious ones.
Oh,
we've talked about action movies and action stars recently. Mm-hmm. This was probably like a month or two ago, but we talked about John Wick 2. Mm-hmm. John Wick 2, the opening scene has the coolest fighting and like just people doing what's it called, just hand-to-hand combat with, and then there's a car that gets involved, and people, it's just the car getting beat up and people getting hit and stuff. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. And then also Keanu Reeves fights with Common in it.
Okay, that is the first thing on my list, so I would like to jump into that as well. I love every single time Common and Keanu are on screen together. It's
so intense. Yes. There's like a little bit of humor parts definitely too. Mm-hmm. And they like every kind of setting. They fight in like a Coliseum area. They fight outside on the street, like an empty street. They fall downstairs. They walk through. They're like a train station, and they're on multiple levels.
And they're shooting each other with silencers.
Surrounded
under
by people.
Each other's arms, not making facial expressions. Yep. Which, by the way, if somebody fell, like if they actually did shoot the other person and that body just like fell down, were they just going to keep walking?
I think so. Like, that world was a little... People were a little too accepting of crazy violence going on.
And apparently everybody's an assassin in that world, as given by the last scene of that movie.
Yeah. And then also, in a subway, it's just hand-to-hand stuff with knives, stuff with guns, everything.
And the thing is that I've heard that Keanu Reeves is one of the actors in Hollywood who is not a professional stunt double, that the stunt doubles like actually... like respect how good he is at what he does, because he takes it very seriously. He's not trying to like show off. He's actually very excited to learn.
He's big into martial arts.
He's big into martial arts. He's like got the level of experience that a stunt man or woman would.
Right.
So he's actually coming into it not like, no, I'm going to handle this. He's like, oh, okay, show me how to do it. And then he does it, and they're like, yeah, you can do this. Like, and so he does his own stunts, or like a good majority of his own stunts. And so like those fight scenes, that's him. And it adds to the character so much, because it's kind of dumb when you have somebody doing a fight and it takes no toll on them.
Right.
Like, that has its own place. Like Captain America. Yeah, of course, he's made out of like vibranium.
Well,
so
even
like,
but
he does get tired.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's so good to be able to see, like, John Wick 2, or John Wick is not Captain America. So like seeing him get exhausted but still keep going is amazing, which is why him and Common fighting, is it in Rome?
I think so.
They're in Rome and they fall down this like huge flight of stairs and they're so tired.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to kill each other.
Fighting for their lives. Yeah.
They're fighting for their lives, and they both understand why they're having the fight. It's not a mystery. It's because of something that happened, and they're just like, well, we're gonna see this through to the end. And it's just such good choreography. Blah 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 blah.
Okay, another one that I think a lot of people know, it's pretty obvious. Terminator 2, when the both Terminators meet, I think for the first time in the hallway, I think at the shopping mall. And Schwarzenegger's got his gun in the flower box, and he pulls it out, and the flowers slow-mo, the roses go flying, and then, because you have the Terminators who don't have emotion, so they just both look very calm, while these two guys are just throwing each other through walls, and just crazy punching, basically, and shooting.
Like watching two machines fight each
Yeah,
other.
because that's what it is, And so it was just done well, and it was one of those was like, this is crazy. Because after the first Terminator, you know, he's a big scary guy. And the second one, you're rooting for him, and the other guy's a big scary guy.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen?
He's a little scary guy.
Yeah.
He looks like, a little bit smaller than Schwarzenegger.
It's like if Zeus and what's Thor? I don't know. Had a fight. Like, what's gonna happen? These two gods.
Norse mythology, Greek mythology.
There we go. Pew. Shockingly, Clash of the Titans did not make it on my list.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
My next one is Mission Impossible Fallout.
I got that.
You and I
what
are
part?
in
What scene?
You and I are in a rewatch right now of the Mission Impossible series, and boy, oh boy, with each movie, do they learn what works and what doesn't work with Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible Fallout is the best one of all of them, hands down. And for me, the way that I wrote it, I'll just read it the way that I wrote it. Tom Cruise chasing mustache Superman, interrupting a funeral, and jumping out of an office building while talking in an earpiece that no one there can see, so it looks like he's nuts. And like, again, Tom Cruise is another actor where it's like you just watch him run and like his eyes get wide and you're like, ooh, we're about to see some running, and then his hands come up real high. And he does like parkour. He does all this crazy stuff. There's humor in it. There's also like just feats of strength and ridiculousness. Yep. But it doesn't look like Fast and the Furious, where it's like, okay, come on. You're going to drive a car out of the Burj Khalifa or whatever, like, and land. Oh, okay. With this one, it's like insane, but you're seeing Tom Cruise do it. And then also there's a helicopter.
The helicopter one is the helicopter fight scene, which is, I don't want to give away much.
No.
But there's plenty of stuff where I don't know what's real and what's not. A lot of the stunts in that movie is just like, they make movies now so well that I just don't know.
And I did read about it, and it doesn't give anything away, but Tom Cruise does fly the helicopter, but you can't tell where that ends and where it begins.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Because it's so crazy. But Tom Cruise did fly helicopters, and the company was like, we need to know that he can actually do this, because we're not going to have Tom Cruise die in one of our helicopters. It's just not this. No. And it's in the movie. It came to a point where they're like, oh yeah, he can pilot this, it's fine. And that's incredibly crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Go see. I would suggest seeing it. I support. That's a great entertainment summertime blockbuster movie.
All right. Let me go to a couple. Now I'll say some that just How should I do this?
Just go for it.
All right. Ninja Turtles 2, the first scene with the Ninja Turtles, the big fight scene, because as the happy music, you see the Ninja Turtles, it's kind of bright, you know nothing bad's going to happen to them, because it's the beginning of the movie, so you just see Ninja Turtles basically make a fool out of all these foot soldiers.
Oh my god, I love
so it's basically just watching as a kid, even watching now, it's just like, hey, Ninja Turtles can save the day. It's going to end well. No one's going to get hurt.
I really hope that when you watched this when you were a kid, that you leaned back like in the theater or on your couch and just went, look at him making a fool of the Foot Clan.
But because like in the first movie, the fights were more realistic, which is weird to say about giant Ninja Turtles, but the first one, they're stressful ones. It was like, oh, this is where Raph is going to basically put into a coma. I'm going
to put you in a karma coma.
Yeah, and then Shredder is like almost kills all of them. The second one, especially the beginning, is just like, they got this. It's more of a comedy scene, and so it's weird to say that just long violent scene. Hey, as a kid, makes you feel good. So that's one, and then that might be the only like kids movie I have on here, but I'll do another one that is not really traditional action thing. Pineapple Express. Danny McBride, James Franco, and Seth Rogen. Yes. They have a fight, and they do such a good job making it seem like people who aren't good at fighting and don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And then Danny McBride like punches a guy or hits him, then runs away and goes, I'm sorry. And
it's not
so funny.
Like a good guy versus bad guy kind of fight where there's like one side is this, one side is that. It's people. It's
clumsy and everything looks like it hurts so much, and they don't have a plan.
Funny, and they do the dumbest things because they're like, I don't know, this is here, and then they use it as a weapon.
It's like little kids fighting, where if they had a lot of strength, basically. All right, cool. Oh, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Why are you sorry?
Because I didn't say anything. I just looked at you.
I have two next, but they're from the same franchise. These are two specific scenes that stand out to me from the Lord of the Rings franchise. From the Two Towers. After the Battle of Helm's Deep, well, I mean, it's still continuing, but it's at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Gandalf promised beforehand, like, look for me when the sun rises, essentially. And, like, everything is at its worst. Hope is basically lost. Everybody's pretty sure they're gonna die.
They're tired.
They're so tired. And then the sun starts to rise, and they look up and they see Gandalf on a horse, just Gandalf, and then one other person rides up next to him, don't remember his name, and then I think it's like all of the Rohirrim ride down a mountainside. And then there's a shot that is gorgeous, and like the music is perfect for that moment, where Gandalf is leading the charge and the horses at the front of the charge leap over and meet the ground force. And so like there are pikes like lifted up, and the horses jump over them and then like into the army on the ground. And it's just like this
ogres, or
they're orcs.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm not gonna get mad at you, but excuse me, you used the right
orcs are language. Like ogres, right? Or no? Okay, sorry.
Let's not digress. That's a nerd conversation for another day. It's beautiful cinematography. It's such a good moment, and like the music works really well with it.
Nice.
And then The Return of the King. It's a very similar one. Horses are involved. Surprise, surprise. If you've met me, horses are kind of a big deal. When Faramir is sent out of Gondor to die by his father, to go back to like that last stand that they have between like them and the forces of Mordor or whatever.
Bad parenting.
I'm using a lot
inappropriate
of terms. But Faramir is riding out with a small force that is basically a token sacrifice by his father, who's just like totally insane. And he knows he's going to die. Everybody knows he's going to die. They all know they're going to die. And they are riding out, and it's just this big field, and you just see these tiny little people riding out to just like a wall of blackness. And there's like crazy, I don't even know the name of like the creatures that are flying around in the air and stuff.
Are they ogres?
No. But again, music picks up.
Oh yeah.
And like light and the cinematography, everything. Oh, it's just so gorgeous and so heartbreaking. And it only meets action because people are moving.
Yeah. Well, so that works.
Yeah. So nerd minute over.
Nice.
About to resume the next time you come around to me.
I'm going to go to, I have 3 where they're movies. I'll just say the movies and you'll kind of get a sense of why they're in a certain category.
All right.
The Room, Miami Connection, and Undefeatable.
The Room?
The Room has the scene where he freaks out. No. Okay, The Room, Tommy Wiseau. You can look it up. You can watch it. You'll understand everything.
No, you won't understand everything.
It's one of the most enjoyable viewing experiences ever. That's my opinion, not KPCA's. So the scene where he freaks out and he trashes his room. He throws a TV out the window and he just like lazily knocks things off of shelves and stuff.
Yeah, his whole body has like full power until he meets the thing that he's about to knock over.
Yeah.
So just like, ah, dink.
Yeah. It's so great. And that movie is amazingly, there isn't, okay, it's known as being one of the worst movies of all time.
Yes, because it is.
But the amazing thing there, I feel like there isn't one bad, as there's not one uninteresting second for me for that movie. It is seriously the most entertaining. That and Miami Connection are the most entertaining all the way through. I think for any movies for me.
A beautiful mind.
The Room is one where it's like if there's somebody I haven't seen Beautiful Mind. The Room is one where if you're showing it to someone for the first time, I'm like, just don't look at your phone. If you have to get up, go to the bathroom, or pausing it, you can't miss any part of it because it's gold everywhere. Ooh, we're getting a phone call. I did not expect that. We haven't got a phone call in forever.
Are you kidding? You're
All
talking
right.
about The Room. Of course we're getting a
Sure.
phone call.
Hey, thanks for calling. Let's make a list on KPCA LP. You are on the air, so please watch your language. How are you doing today?
Let's talk about The Room.
The room sex scenes are boring. They're just too
Okay.
long.
Okay, well,
I mean,
those
I'm
are
not
the
gonna
most
argue
those
with
are
this
the
there.
most boring scenes. I will give you that.
I just took umbrage at your not a wasted second or whatever.
Well, for those
I
because
think you could cut a minute out of that movie and it would be a little better.
for those scenes are so long, and those where it actually works with the length of them, I feel like it
That's
gets
true.
more funny kind of as it goes.
Nope.
That's true.
Okay, so for
It's
me,
a movie-
Everything
it's
about-
I think it's just boring to watch. You're right, though.
Okay.
It is kind of just it's so absurd.
There's nothing
that's-
funny
yeah.
about those sex scenes. They are horrifying. It's like watching a grotesque car accident in slow motion where you want it to stop. And in this case, you
I
actually
agree
do
with
have the
that
power to stop it. But like, it's horrifying. And thank you for using the word umbrage. Good job.
I couldn't think of the word I actually meant to use.
Well, that was a good one.
was it Cambridge?
Cambridge.
There we go.
I took Cambridge when he said that at the room.
I think we settled that.
Thank you so
what-
much.
Okay.
Wait, real quick before you go, do you have a quick favorite action scene in the movie?
On the fly.
Off the top of my head, it's been talked about a lot, but that corridor scene in Old Boy, where it just
Oh
seems
yeah,
so
that's a great scene. I forgot
exhausting.
about that. Where it's just kind of side scrolling. He just gets more tired. He has a hammer and he gets more tired as
Yeah.
he goes on. I think there was a scene in the Daredevil TV show that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah,
that was
that's
pretty
been
cool.
it's been copied a bunch of times
Uh-huh.
recently, but it still holds up. I think.
Good choice.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
I forgot to put that
listener.
on my list. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
And that was listener umbrage.
It's weird how I forgot about those scenes in the room.
Because there's no need for them, and they are the worst.
They're
Of
the
the
worst scenes in the movie,
worst.
but I still think they are a part of what makes the movie special.
Special.
So yeah,
has a
Miami
whole
Connection
meaning now.
has a lot more action. The fighting there's some of the people are actually trained martial artists, but I don't think they're trained filmmakers.
No.
That movie is
You said I don't think. What on earth made you not have a firm stance on that?
I don't know. Some being
They're
trained to do
not.
something and doing it well is different. The Room in Miami. I love these movies.
Yes,
And
you do.
Undefeatable is one where most of the movie is incredibly boring,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a fight scene that if you look on YouTube or something to search like best fight scene ever, or just search Undefeatable fight scene, you'll find it, and it's pretty magical too.
magical.
Yeah, it's funny. I recommend it. All right. Your turn.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is the last of my list. I
Uh-huh.
probably have so many more, but this is what I could pull together from my brain today. And listener umbrage may take umbrage at this. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi, the throne scene, that fight scene.
Oh, that was great.
Or the throne room
Yes.
sequence. That is such
That
an
is really
awesome
good. Yeah,
sequence.
that should be on my list.
It's so good. Like the style of that movie, I just love the way that universe looks anyway. But like Kylo Ren and Rey taking down the Praetorian Guards is amazing.
Super cool. And you have these new weapons that you haven't seen in the Star Wars
So good.
universe
And
yet.
the uniforms that you
think.
hadn't
Right.
like really been able to see like is so awesome.
Yep.
And then it's these two people who don't know each other working completely in tandem. And also if you look for it online, people have taken that scene and just played songs over it without cutting it any differently. And there are so many songs that work 100% with that fight scene.
Oh,
a lot of them come from Queen, and they're all amazing. There's also like a song by Bonnie Tyler. Like there's so many, and they're hilarious every single time. And I could just watch one after another, after another, after another.
Nice. That reminds me of one of my list, Force Awakens. Towards the end, it's Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Their first fight, because
it's so
it's
good.
intense, and Rey's kind of learning what she can
Yeah.
do, and then Kylo Ren's just so angry and just.
And he's also so confused.
Yeah.
And he's kind of being taken out of the anger at some point, and he's interested intellectually.
Yeah.
Like this is a problem that he needs to solve now, where it's like, how is this happening?
Yep.
And it like within the mythology of Star Wars, within the universe of Star Wars, oh boy, this is just a taste of the Star Wars episodes that we're going to have.
Rey's actually probably more upset than Kylo Ren now that I think
Oh,
about it. But
she's
go ahead.
100% more upset. Like if you watch that, she's the one who's completely upset. But it within the mythology of Star Wars, it shows you how the Force works. Because something happened earlier in that movie where she has accessed him just as much as he's accessed her, and her fighting skill isn't her own. It's things that she downloaded from him.
The Force Awakened.
Yes.
Was that more in the second one?
You see it first there.
Okay.
Because she's using his own style against him. I'm sure that you can have a lot of really nerdy information on the internet break it down for you. But that's one of the first times that you see it. In the interrogation scene, she gets into his head just as much as he gets into hers.
Right. Good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Umbridge is a little some information I just received from outside of the studio.
Oh, okay.
Listener Umbridge is umbraged.
All right. So that's the last one on your list?
Yes.
Let's go through the rest of mine real quick. All the car chases in Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh God, how was that not even on my list?
Those are all phenomenal.
They're
Another one where I
so
can't
good.
tell what's real and what's not. I think a lot of it is really done, but yeah, gorgeous and intense. And the guy playing the guitar on the front of one of the cars just adds to it so much. It shouldn't work at all. This guy in front of this truck playing electric guitar music while there's this big
And he's bouncing
chasing
around
going
on suspension.
Yeah, but it 100% works. Dead Alive, early Peter Jackson kind of zombie movie where a guy takes a lawnmower and lifts it up and just mows down zombies with a lawnmower, and it's so over the top ridiculous. Edge of Tomorrow, later in the movie, when he kind of
I did not.
memorizes each move he has to do right when he does it, and it's like this dance he does pretty much.
Then he keeps having to redo it.
Yeah. I think the Deadpool movies have great fight scenes, especially for me. The one that sticks out, it's an action scene in Deadpool 2, the skydiving scene. Not gonna say anything else. That was my favorite scene in the movie, I think, and it has my favorite 5 seconds in the movie. And real quick, this is important. Demolition Man has so many cheesy lines, especially when when Phoenix and Sylvester Stallone's character meet in the future for the first time, or I guess in the present during that movie, you know what I mean, in the future. And there's just so many cheesy lines, and it's very
The whole movie is cheesy
fantastic.
lines.
Totally. I love it. And I couldn't remember a specific scene for this, but I knew that Logan had amazing fight scenes too.
Pretty much any
Hugh
fight
Jackman
scene
as
that comes
Wolverine
out.
upset and just brutal.
Upset and old and broken.
Yep. And then last one, two more. One is, you haven't seen this, Sicario. There's a scene that is tense where they're taking people over the Mexico-U.S. border, and they do it so well. And then last one, I think it was Kill Bill 2, where it was at the Asian club, music club, and there's the band playing, and then there's just
Everybody.
just so many
Chaos.
people fighting against her, and she's jumping around on balconies and stuff. Yep.
If I had done this list correctly, all the way through, Mad
Well,
Max, Kill Bill, all of those would
I
have
have a list of all my movies that I see. I keep track of all of them, so it's easier
Yeah.
for me. I can just go to that list.
Wait, you like to make lists?
Yes. Let's make one. All right. It is time pretty much for us to go. Thank you guys very much for listening. I appreciate it. I feel like this is two different shows now, but it's fun. But the voting thing is something just important. I wanted to make sure to talk about.
I think it's very interesting to be able to discuss.
Yeah, we have this outlet.
These
So
things.
important. Just please vote, everybody. Even if it might not mean anything, just do it anyway, because it might mean something.
Vote and then some.
Yep. All right. Stick around, please, for Full Circle sessions. DJ Saeed looks like is not here, so we have a guest DJ. So, yeah, stick around. Be a little different. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Ariel.
Thanks, Phil.